Hello.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, dear participants. We are going to start session 3. Our resource person is ready with us. Before going to start the session, first of all, I would like to give a brief introduction about the resource person of day 1, session 3, Dr. M. Ramesh Kumar, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Dr. Ramesh Kumar, sir, is coordinator of this FTP as well as resource person of the technical session 3 on the topic Introduction to Data and Data Analysis. He is presently head Department of Management Studies, Mahatma Gandhi University, Nalgonda, and also controller of examinations, Mahatma Gandhi University. Prior to this, he served for the Mahatma Gandhi University in the capacities of Director, College Development Council, Director, Directorate of Admissions, Principal for University College of Commerce and Business Management, etc. His areas of teaching is organizational behavior, consumer behavior, marketing research. He is one of the senior faculty member in the Department of Management Studies, Mahatma Gandhi University. His academic qualifications includes PhD in Business Management from Osmania University, MBA and MSc Psychology from Kakatiya University. Published more than 50 papers in national and international journals, authored a book, edited 5 books, completed 1 UGC-sponsored major research project entitled Work-Life Balance, a Study of Select Professions. Presently, 4 doctoral students are working under his able guidance. He has experience in software like SPSS 21 and AMOS 17 for statistical analysis. He is a person with H-index in both Scopus and Google Scholar, apart from being an editorial boards of several reputed journals in various capacities. He is having membership in professional bodies, membership in editorial board like International Academy of Business and Economics, IABE, reviewer for various list of journals, Elsevier editorial system, reviewer for long range planning, European Economic Research, member of International Advisory Board, Journal of Marine Tourism, member editorial board, Zenith International Research and Academic Foundation India, member of editorial board, Radix International Education and Research Consortium, member of editorial board, Asia Academic Research Associates, member of editorial board, International Journal of Research in Applied Management, Science and Technology, editor-in-chief, are some of his contribution towards research. Thank you so much, sir, for giving me an opportunity to introduce you. Now I'm stopping here and I request you to kindly take up the session. It's over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. Very good afternoon, one and all. Hope I am audible. Am I audible, participants?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Please continue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, one and all. In the morning sessions, we have seen introduction to research and also um, questionnaire design was covered by Professor M. Adgiri, sir. In continuation to it, and I would like to continue the concept. Yeah. Is my PPT visible? Yeah. Is my slide visible? Participants?
Yes, visible.
Yeah. Can we make it little interactive? Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Thank you. Right. Let us see a sample questionnaire before we go into the concept of understanding data and data analysis. Because most of the days, these days, what is happening is, since SPSS is a software, people are installing SPSS software in their systems. And once you have data, without understanding the basics of data and data statistics, they are executing the commands on SPSS and they are getting the results. And most of the research, which without understanding what is the significance of the test, they are trying to execute the test and they are getting the results. And without knowing how to interpret the results, they are trying to publish the data. This is one of the major issue in present day scenario. And to address that particular point, we have chosen this particular topic, Introduction to Data and Data Analysis. Without my point of taking this discussion is, without understanding data, without understanding basic concepts of statistics, we are not supposed to go with using SPSS software or that matter any other software. So for that regard, let us see a sample questionnaire. A sample questionnaire I am taking. This is about a questionnaire meant for measuring job satisfaction of doctors. Right? In the first part of the questionnaire, there is classification data. Classification data, generally we will be asking name of the doctor, the gender, the marital status, when you are appointed. Like we would like to know how many years of experience they have, and when was the establishment of the organization, what type of organization it is, what age there, and what is their qualification. These kind of questions generally we will be asking in a question. I'm showing the sample part, right? And continuation to it, there will be things like their higher education, their designation, so the kind of hospital they are working and the designation of the hospital, and what is their salary, and also about number of dependents. All these are the matters related to demographic profile of the doctor, right? And the continuation, this is about doctor demographic variables. We are taking the data. Then continuation, I'm trying to inquire about his job satisfaction based upon certain questions. So I am showing here 34 questions are asked about job satisfaction. 34 questions are asked about job satisfaction, and about 9 questions are asked about demographic profile. So each kind of question will have a different kind of response. Being a researcher, you should be able to understand what kind of data you are collecting from each question, because we cannot use same kind of statistical technique on every kind of data. Based upon data, you have to decide what kind of tool or what kind of technique is applicable. To understand that, first we need to understand what is the question. For example, if you see, you see the first question, name of the doctor. What kind of analysis we can do on this name of the doctor? We cannot do any kind of analysis there. But why we are asking? Because for any reference in the future, we would like to know from whom we have collected this kind of questionnaire. But when it comes to second question, where we have asked 1A, we have asked about gender, right? We are trying to know whether the doctor is a male or a female. Are we going to use this data in analysis? Yes, we are going to use this data in analysis. But what kind of analysis we can do on this? What kind of data is this male and gender are? Can we compare male with gender? If it is a comparison, are we going to say male is better than female or female is better than male? What exactly you would like to interpret there? So this point we need to understand. See, we cannot have same kind of interpretation on every kind of data. If it is gender, a different kind of thing. If it is a marital status, if it is different kind of thing. Why this different kind of things comes in is because the type of data is different from one to other. So first instance, when you look at the questionnaire, you should be able to understand what type of data it is. What type of data it is. Then we will be able to understand what kind of analysis we will be able to do on this data. You cannot do, I repeat, we cannot do same kind of test on every kind of data. So it is only on type of data you have to decide what kind of analysis you are going to do. So for that reason, understanding data is very, very important in statistics. Without understanding data, you cannot do or you are not supposed to do analysis. I repeat once again the same statement what I have made in the first instance. I said today's most of the young generation researchers, the moment they are aware about the SPSS software, they are installing SPSS software in their system. Either it is a pirated version or it is a student version or it is a purchased version. Whatever version is accessible to them, they are installing in their system. And then since it is a mouse click one, because there when you go into the when you go into the SPSS software, there will be analyzed. When we choose some technique, it will give result, right? Since it is a computer, it will treat that you have understood the type of data and accordingly you have chosen the technique. So what it generates the result of the test. And most of the researchers, what they are doing is simply they are taking that test results and they are trying to draw the inferences and trying to publish something. But what is very important to understand is whether we can do such kind of test on the data or not. That is first important thing we need to understand. And when we look at the questionnaire also, you should understand what kind of test is the appropriate test on this data. So what kind of test will give you results for this kind of test. So that is the first thing which we need to understand. So what is the meaningful inferences we can draw when we use a certain test? That is what we need to understand. To understand that what is important, we have to understand what type of data it is. Once we understand data, you will be able to understand what kind of analysis can be done on the data. Once you are able to understand what kind of analysis can be done on the data, then when you import the data into SPSS, do some editing, do some coding, then clean the data, then make the data ready for analysis, then use mouse click, then analyze the data. This is the process of doing analysis using SPSS. So for that purpose, so I am starting with this questionnaire, right? So first instance, what we have, this is the demographic variable we are collecting through the questionnaire. Then second instance, we are collecting certain aspects related to job satisfaction measured from these doctors, because this is job satisfaction questionnaire meant for measuring the job satisfaction of doctors. So these are the set of questions that are being used. So looking at this questionnaire, so you should be able to, you are supposed to identify what kind of test is appropriate. So for that, what is most important? You need to understand what kind of statistical tools are available, what kind of analysis can be done on that using those tools. That is the most important thing that we need to understand. So in this today's session, we'll try to understand what is data. We'll try to understand certain basic statistical techniques, and we'll try to understand on what kind of data we can do what kind of analysis. So this is what we will do in today's session. In tomorrow's session morning, we will be starting working with SPSS. That point of time, I'm expecting all the participants to install SPSS in your systems and be ready with your system. And when we try to execute something, you also try to execute, open the SPSS software in your system and try to interact with me, try to ask some questions about how to use the data. In meantime, we'll now try to understand some basic concepts of statistics. Now, what is statistics? Statistics is the art of learning from data. It is concerned with the collection of drawing, their subsequent description, and their analysis, which often lead to drawing conclusions. So what we try to do, we try to collect data and do some description of the data and do some analysis of the data and finally draw some conclusions and inferences out of that data. And this is what we call it as statistics. And statistics has two major branches. One is called descriptive statistics, other one is called inferential statistics, right? So descriptive statistics, this is the part of statistics concerned with description and summarization of data. So what we do here, we try to summarize the data, whatever data we have. Like, so you'll have huge amount of data, or you will have like whatever data has been collected. Suppose you have collected from 100 sample or 1000 sample. Whatever data you have, that you are trying to summarize it, right? You are trying to draw a meaningful table, and you'll try to arrive at some points, right? You'll try to describe the data. You'll try to, based upon some analysis, you'll try to describe, right? You'll try to describe the data. And that is what descriptive statistics will do. And what the inferential statistics does is, it draws conclusion from the data. It goes beyond it. It draws conclusion from the data, and we call it as inferential statistics, right? So basically, statistics can be divided into the descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. And now the another important thing which we need to understand after understanding these two branches of statistics is there will be population, there will be sample. And we need to understand here, most of the times when we go with a questionnaire, most of our business management studies or commerce studies, we'll try to do sample study. And once again, how to choose a sample is a different concept which we will not be covering in this FDP. But however, uh, it is a different it is once again there are sampling techniques and you use appropriate sampling technique, then choose a sample which is a true representative of the total population. Why we will go for some, why we will go for sample? As because collecting data from the entire population might not be possible in every instance. In such a case, what we do, we'll go for sample. So what is a sample? Sample is a subgroup of the population that we are going to study, and based upon the results of this sample data, we'll try to interpret, or we'll uh, try to give some conclusion about the total population. That is what of population and population and sample meaning. Now, when it comes to statistical analysis, the main purpose is to examine and explore information from its own intrinsic interest only. Then the study is called descriptive study. A descriptive study may be performed either on a sample or on a population. So you can do descriptive study on the sample or on the population. And generally, we do inferential statistics on the sample and try to interpret for the population. So you do analysis of the sample data and try to draw some inference and try to correlate it to the complete population. That is what is called inferential statistics is. Now, coming to the data, in order to learn anything, we need to collect data. And data are the facts, figures collected, analyzed, and summarized for presentation and interpretation. All right. So see, I just shown a questionnaire, right? In questionnaire, from the respondent, you are trying to collect data, right? So whatever information you are collecting, that is also a data. Not every time we will take a descriptive data. Sometimes we will take figures. Sometimes we will take some facts from present from the society, right? And you will try to do some analysis of that, right? Basically, it is what data is. And why do we collect data? Why we collect data? Because we are interested in characteristics of some group or groups of people, right? I have shown the job satisfaction. I would like to measure job satisfaction of doctors because doctors happens to be noble profession, right? Their job satisfaction have long impact on the society, right? And a more satisfied doctor will better perform. That is an outline what we understand in any uh, scenario, right? A more satisfied employee will always better perform. And we would like to know whether the doctors are satisfied or not. If not satisfied, why they are not satisfied? If they are not satisfied, what are their requirements and what are their expectations and how they can be satisfied. And to understand all these things, what is needed? We need to have we need to collect data related to each. Because I am interested to study about doctor's profession, I am interested about understanding the satisfaction of the doctors. I need to have some data collected from that. So this collected data will be used for that, right? So whatever data we talk about, that data we see into primary data will be there, secondary data will be there, and we call it as primary data. When we go into the market, collect the data, we call it as a primary data. You are using a questionnaire, going into the market and collecting data, it's called primary data collection. Sometimes what we do, you will use the data which is already available in the form of some published material, right? Maybe in the form of a journal, maybe in the form of maybe available on some repositories, statistical repositories, and use the data for analysis, right? But for that also, what we check, what is the reliability of the data, what is the genuinity of the data, whether the data is suitable for you or not. Anyway, ultimately, we will try to understand whether our objectivity of our study can be met with the public, with the available data or not, right? So if that is met, then definitely we'll be using published data. When it is not met, then we'll go for primary data, right? So now, though I'm not covering how we are going to collect the primary data, basically when we have already collected data, when we are trying to understand data, so what is needed, that aspect we will be covering in today's session. So most of the data, what we try to collect will be in unstructured format. But when we collect it using through a questionnaire, it will be in a structured format. But in otherwise, you are gone to an instance, you are gone to a situation, you are trying to make a note of the facts of a situation. Whatever data you have collected in that situation will be in an unstructured format, will be in an unstructured format. Analyzing unstructured data is very, very difficult. We have other mechanisms, and it is very difficult for us to use SPSS on such unstructured data, right? So what we try to do in all such cases is we'll try to transform such unstructured data into a structured data. And when we say what is a structured data, I will show you in a while, right? But we will try to transform that unstructured data into a structured data, then we will try to do analysis. In all other cases, when we try to collect data using a questionnaire, right? Some respondent has given some response to a particular question, right? In all such cases, you can say the complete data is structured only, but even in such cases, there will be certain aspects which you are trying to measure, which are in the form of unstructured form. So even that you need to reform, you need to purify before you go for analysis of data using SPSS, right? So let me show a data set, whether you work on SPSS, whether you work on Stata, or whether you work on R, or you are working on Python, you need a data set to work with. So data structure is the structured collection of data, structured collection of data, and such structured collection of data is needed to do analysis, right? So this is an example of such data set. So what I am trying to present here, I have collected certain data of students. I have collected certain data of students. So I have collected name of the student, gender, date of birth, marks in class 10, and board of exam, which board of exam they have written for 10th class, then marks in class 12, then the board of the class 12, the mobile number. The small data I have taken. I would like to do small analysis here. I would like to understand what is the composition of certain board of students in the total number of students, and what is their performance, how they have performed in class 10, how they have performed in class 12. So whether the CBSE student always going for CBSE in class 12, whether state board students are going to state board in class 12, or they are switching to CBSE or ICSE, these kind of small things. Because the data is very limited, I would like to do small aspects. I would like to measure in terms of the gender, in terms of the age, in terms of the performance of the students. These things I would like to study. So what is required? I need a certain data set. This is an example for such example. What kind of data is this? Is this structured data or unstructured data? This is a structured, this is a structured data. This is structured data. So most of the cases, I was just even referring, when you have been in a situation, you are trying to make a note of a fact, right? When you are making a note of a fact in a descriptive form, then it is not a structured data like this, right? It will be a paragraph kind of data you are trying to get. That also, in case you would like to put it to analysis, what is required is you need to transform such data into this kind of table format. Only then it is possible for us to do analysis using SPSS. Otherwise, it is not possible for us to do analysis using SPSS, right? So data is very important to understand, and data's, right? There will be structured data, unstructured data, and we will be able to do analysis in SPSS only with structured data. In the structured data, we will be calling it as a data set. And this is an example for a data set. When we talk about a data set, there will be variables and there will be cases. There will be variables and there will be cases. We need to understand what is a variable, what is a case. So case is an observation, a unit from which data are collected. What is that? Suppose I am talking about a questionnaire. I am using a questionnaire. I am going to a respondent X and I am collecting data about all the questions, right? There are 20 questions in a questionnaire. There are 20 questions in a questionnaire. Then those 20 questions are the variables. And since we are collecting data from a respondent, the data about all those variables given, the values for all those variables given by that particular respondent is called a case. I repeat, the responses given by single respondent to all the questions that are asked. The complete thing is called as case, right? So suppose I am collecting data from 50 parties, 50 respondents. So my sample is 50 respondents. I am collecting data from 50 respondents. I am putting that in a data set, right? That is called data set, right? Every data set will have a row, right? And there will be columns. Now, having heard or learnt about cases and variables, now we will try to understand what is a variable. This 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 is a variable. These are variables. Suppose these are the things which I am asking from each respondent. These are the variables I am asking from each respondent. I have gone to one person and I asked what is name. So they have given the name as Anjali, taken the gender details, taken the date of birth, taken the marks in 10th, taken the board name, then the marks in class 12, board, then the mobile number. The total data, the total data is called case. This is called case. This is called an observation. This is called an observation, right? And the entire thing about suppose I am collecting data from 50 respondents. This is called data set. So what is there here? There are variables. So these are the variables. Right? And there are cases. So these are the cases. Case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, case 5, case 6, case 7, case 8, case 9, something like that. So these are the cases. Now, when I go with a questionnaire, so I will collect, if I collected data from one person, so I have collected one observation. What I have done? I have collected one observation. That one observation, complete observation, we are calling it as a case. So that is what? An unit from which data are collected. That is what a case is. Every case will have n number of variables based upon the number of questions you are asking. Why we are saying variable is the response for each variable will be varying from one person to other person, right? For a question name, someone has given Anjali, someone has given Pradeep, somebody has given Porsche, right? Names are varying. Because they are varying, they are called variables. So everywhere, when we are collecting data using any questionnaire or any cases, or when we try to prepare any data set, there will be cases, there will be variables. And always we will represent cases in horizontal and variables vertically, because this is how we try to do analysis using SPSS. In SPSS software, so this is how we take the data. not only in SPSS, even when we try to do analysis in Excel also, this is how we will be taking data most of the cases. You can ask me a question, can't we do it in transpose way, like taking rows into columns, columns into rows? Yes, you can do it only in Excel, but not in other cases. But when it comes to SPSS, this is the only way through which you have to do. Right. So once you are understood about these cases and variables, next important thing what we need to understand is you need to understand what type of data it is, whether data is categorical, whether it is numerical. So what is categorical, what is numerical? And once you understand what is categorical and what is numerical, you should be able to understand what kind of analysis you can do on categorical, what kind of analysis you can do on numerical. And at this point of time, let me make it very clear. The kind of statistical techniques you can apply on categorical data cannot be applied on numerical data. Whatever tools, whatever techniques that you can apply on numerical cannot be applied on categorical. So when you have some data with you, you should understand what type of data and what type of tool you can do on that, what kind of tool you can use on that data. So for that, you first should understand what type of data it is, whether it is a categorical data or numerical data. Now let us understand what is categorical data is. So categorical variables represent type of data which may be divided into groups. Example for categorical variables: race, gender, age group. I am not saying age here. I am not saying age here. I am saying age group. Age is numerical data. Age is numerical data, and age group is categorical data. So what this is, we will see in a while. But as of now, age is numerical data because someone age will be 24, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 46, 48, 49, 50. These are the ages. These are all numerical data, right? And age group is categorical data. What it is, we will see in a while. And even education qualification is also categorical data. Let's see, let me tell you an example for this. I am saying someone is illiterate, someone is SSC or class 10, right? Or I am saying someone is graduate, someone is postgraduate. I am saying someone is professionally graduated, professional graduation, right? Right. So I am saying someone is doctorate, right? So what these here? These are all education levels. These are education levels. Illiterate, class 10, right? Class 10, and I mean class 10 is, I'm trying to say he has passed certain level of basic education, right? He is not illiterate, but he is literate, but he is not a graduate, right? The next level I'm talking about, there is a graduate, then a postgraduate, right? Professional graduated, doctorate. These are the levels of education it is. In all the cases, what you are supposed to understand is these are not numerical data, but these are categorical data. We have categorized them. We have divided them into groups, and we are calling them as group data, right? This is what categorical data is. And all these categorical data are qualitative data. They are not quantitative data, but they are qualitative data. And what is numerical data is? Let us see. Numerical data, as the name implies, deals with number variables, right? For a response, there will be a number given. There is a response, number will be given. Suppose the example of the data set, what we have seen just now, is class 10 marks. Class 10 marks. Someone has got 468, someone has got 512, someone has got 320, someone has got 570. What are these are? What are these are? These are numbers. These are numbers. These values, the values which we are inserting in the variables are numbers, pure numbers. So pure numbers. So such kind of data Such kind of data we call it as numerical data. When we are asking someone, I am asking whether you are passed. What is your education qualification? I asked a question like, what is your educational qualification? I have given a response is something like that. A, illiterate. B, some SSC. C, graduate. These are the responses. A, B, C, D, E, F, something like that. So when you take this data, this questionnaire to a particular respondent, what he will do? He will tick an appropriate. Suppose you have taken it to someone who is not educated, he will click 1, A. Right? So these are what kind of data these are? These are what? These are categorical data. But when you ask about the marks of an individual, he has mentioned so and so numbers. These are numerical data. Now, one point I just mentioned here, you have gone to a respondent and you have asked what is your age. He has given my age is 35 years. My age is 35 years. So what this is? This is numerical data. I have taken numerical data. Someone has given 35, somebody has given 40, somebody has given 45, somebody has given 50, somebody has given 56. But what we do in research is we will not ask most of the times we will not ask the age of the individual, but we will ask age group of the individual. Age group of the individual. There is a difference here because when we try to do analysis in SPSS or for that matter in any kind of analysis, it is always better understood that the properties of the people, the characteristics of the people vary in age groups, not by age groups. When you talk about teenagers, when you talk about middle-aged people, when you talk about old age people, the priorities will more or less remain same. For that reason, when we try to do analysis using age as a factor, age as a criteria, what we do is we will try to convert the age, if at all asked, into a categorical data. So what we do is we will try to categorize this data. Suppose I have asked age in the questionnaire, but when I try to take it in the SPSS or any other software for statistic analysis, I will not be taking 35, but I will be taking a group. What that group is, let me tell you. Suppose my study. In my study, I have taken this, but when I take the data into analysis, what I am doing is I am saying up to, I'm trying to convert these ages into age groups, up to 16 years. Purely arbitrary. Whatever responses, whatever groups I'm creating, it all depends upon what kind of analysis, what is the study about it. Suppose it is about doctors. There is no reason, there is no point in choosing up to 16 years, right? Here, at least I need to mention about 25 or 21, right? If you think it is MBBS doctor, by the time he completes, it will be completes his MBBS, it will be 21 or 22 or 23. So I need to mention here at least 25 age category I need to, right? There is no point of having 16 at the point. In other cases, suppose I want to study about preference of a particular product among target customer group. In such a cases, maybe it is appropriate for me to have a category group something like up to 16 years, right? So purely arbitrary, I'm taking these category groups. So up to 16 years, then 16 to about 25 years. So then C, sorry, right. So C, third one, what I am doing is 25 to 35 years. And then what I am doing is D. So 35 to 45 or 50 years. Okay. E, 50 years to 60 years. Then above 60 years. Only for the sake of example, I am mentioning these categories. It need not be the same categories, but this is how you can categorize the group. So like when we take age 35 years, that 35 will come into what category? So I will take into C category, right? I'm taking it. See here, this is also like 16, then it becomes 17 to 25, then this becomes 30, 26 to 35, this becomes 36 to 50, this becomes 51 to 60 and above 60 years. This is how you will be categorizing data. Now when it comes to 35 years, 35 years comes into group C. So in case you have collected data in numerical form, especially when it comes to age, we'll try to convert this age into age groups for better analysis. We will not go by age wise calibration because there are about from 20, suppose the data is about um, collecting data from doctors, say from 20, someone is ranging from 25 to 85. The practicing doctor is 85 in some cases, right? How many are there? There are about 60, right? 60 years are there. 60 years. What 60 years are? There will be data related to 25 years group. There will be data about 26 group. There will be data about 27 group. There will be data about 28 group. Likewise, up to what? 60 will be there. 85 will be there. 85 years. So how many years of data is there? 60 years of data. Analyzing this way will not give any constructive outcome. So for that reason, what we do is we'll try to group the data and we will make it as categorical data, especially when it comes to age, especially when it comes to age. In rest of the cases, we'll try to avoid categories. We'll try to confine to numerical data. You please note it. In rest of the cases, we'll try to confine to numerical data only. But when it comes to age, this is one peculiar thing which we try to do, right? So apart from that, categorical data, there will be numerical data, and numerical data deals with numbers. One important aspect which I would like to tell you here is categorical data is something like qualitative. It is a qualitative variable, and whereas numerical data is quantitative variable. Numerical data is quantitative variable and categorical data is qualitative data. So when we try to understand this qualitative data and quantitative data, we will be understanding what kind of measures of dispersion, what kind of graphs, what kind of statistical analysis, which is parametric or non-parametric, what is the appropriate technique that has to be applied on the data, we will be able to understand, right? But first thing is, when you look at the data, you should understand what type of data it is, whether it is a categorical data, whether it is a numerical data. Now, after that, this is even apart from that, there will be cross-sectional data and time series data, right? As the morning resource person was telling you, time series data is recorded over a period of time, and cross-sectional data is data observed at same time, right? Same time in different places. This is an example of time series data, right? On different dates, you have collected what are the prices of the product, selling price and cost price, and the quantity that is what you are selling in the market. An example for time series data. Now coming to the scales. Once you understand what is qualitative data and what is quantitative data, the next important thing which we need to understand is scales of measurement. Scales of the measurement will tell you what kind of analysis you are able to do on the data. Now, there are four major scales of measurement. Even in statistics, when you try to define a variable, there you are going to categorically define what type of data it is. There is nominal data, ordinal data, or ratio data. There will be three types of data there, and you will be clearly mentioning what type of data, because SPSS understands if it is nominal data, what kind of analysis you can do. If it is ordinal data, what kind of analysis you can do. If it is a ratio data, what kind of analysis you can do. Because I was telling you, most of the people who got habituated with SPSS, they'll get fascinated by the test name. Yeah, it is a NOVA, I should do. It is crucial value test, I should do. Without understanding whether that test is applicable or not, they will try to use it. This is a major drawback of SPSS software because it is very like a mouse click mechanism. You will be missing sometimes the very fundamental things, and there is a chance that you do a mistake. To avoid all these things, you need to understand. And sometimes SPSS itself will restrict you when you define appropriately. So majorly, there are four scales. There are nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. Now let us understand what this nominal scale are. When the data for a variable consists of labels or names used to identify the characteristic of observation, the scale of measurement is considered to be nominal data. Very simple example, let me tell you. Very simple example, let me tell you. Right? We being the faculty, we always have nominal rules. We'll have rule numbers. All the rule number data, the serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3. These kind of data is the best example I can say it as nominal data. Right? Why I'm saying this as nominal data is someone was given serial number 1, someone was given rule number 1. It does not mean that rule number 1 is better performing than rule number 2 or rule number 2 is better performing than rule number 1. It has no correlation. There is no kind of such kind of relation existing. Only to identify the students in a class, rule numbers are given. Only for the sake of their identification, the examination, hall ticket numbers are given. It does not mean that someone with a lesser hall ticket number is better or next best to the higher hall ticket number. There is no way related. Similarly, right, in the previous data, whatever data set I have shown to you, there is a item called name. Someone was given Anjali, someone was given Praveen, Prasad, so and so names. Those are names. Those are the nominal data. There is no way one name is one name is a better name than other name. You cannot compare like that. You cannot compare like that. So names is one of the best example for nominal data. Even the boards also. There is a CBSE, there is a state board, there is ICSE. All these are the boards. You have the board names. You cannot compare the board names and you cannot say one board is a better board than other board. Right? In such case, right, we being the faculty from universities, right? So a student is graduated at so and so university. Other student is graduated from other university, right? When you are comparing the students, you can compare based upon the percentage of the marks obtained by them. You cannot compare by the name of the university. These are all nominal data. These are all nominal data. The kind of analysis you can do on this nominal data is very, very limited. Apart from that, gender is also one best example, which is for nominal data, right? Male and female, right? So there is no comparison between male and female. You cannot say male is better or female is better than the other gender, right? Other ways like blood groups, right? Even when you watch cricket also, the jerseys worn by the players, there will be numbers on their jerseys, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Numbers will be there, right? Someone with a 1 is not excellent player. Someone with an higher will not be next best, right? It has no way correlation, right? And there is no order in this data. There is no order in this data. Right? When I say order in this data, what I'm very clearly saying, suppose I am talking about male and female, right? So I am saying there is no order in this data. What is no order here? So male is better than female or female is better than male is not there, right? Those are independent things. We are identifying them as separate, right? There is no way you are saying something is better than other, right? It comes to the second type of data. It is called ordinal scale of measurement, right? The first one what we have seen is nominal data. First one is nominal data. Second one what we are seeing is ordinal data. The difference between these two data are all the characteristics that are there in nominal data are automatically existing in ordinal data. All the characteristics that properties exhibit in nominal data underlyingly prevail in ordinal data. Above it, there will be a rank, there will be order in the data. There will be order in the data. What this order is, right? In the case like male and female, can there be order? Can I say one is better than other? No. In such kind of data, it is not possible to say there is order existing. In which all kind of data there is order existing. I am trying to rate my satisfaction in on a product or on a service. I have taken, I am trying to measure the satisfaction, right? So I am giving, I am asking, is your satisfaction excellent? Or the service is satisfied, excellently satisfied? Or is it just good? Or is it poor, right? For this matter, like now I am trying to take only these three responses from the respondent: excellent, right? Excellent, good, or poor. Now, when you got a respondent and you have taken the response, someone has given excellent, someone has given good, someone has given poor. Is there order in this data? Definitely there is an order. Excellent is a better thing than good. Right? Good is next to excellent only. It is not better than excellent. There is a comparison here. How much good, how much better, I am not trying to compare. But only thing I am trying to say is one is better than other. I'm trying to say one is better than other. But how much it is better, I'm not trying to say here. But definitely excellent is better than good. And good is best than poor. Poor is the worst thing. Poor is the last thing. Poor is the last thing here. Since in this thing, in this response format, I have taken only three: excellent, good, and poor. Out of these three, when I try to rate, excellent is the first thing, good is the second thing, poor is the third thing. Right? So this is how there is a ranking here. Right? This is how ranking. Apart from that, other best way is when an exam is conducted, students are allotted with ranks. Students are allotted with their ranks, right? So ranks, someone was given first rank, someone was given second rank, third one, someone was given third rank, someone was fourth, like and so forth, right? The student who got first rank is a better student than who got second rank. And second, the student who got second rank is always the best student, right? Than the student who got third. Likewise, this comparison is possible only in ordinal data. But how much he is better, that you cannot measure at this stage. But definitely say he is better. 1 is better than 2, 2 is better than 3, 3 is better than 4, and 4 is better than 5. Good. This is what we can say. Ordinal is existing. But how much is better, I am not trying to say here. What this how much is better is, suppose the student who got first rank got 75 marks in the exam, right? The student who got second rank got 74.9. 74.9. And suppose the student who got third rank got 70. And the student who got fourth rank 50. And student who got fifth rank got 49.9. Right? When we try to compare these students 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so based upon the exam they have written, 1 is best, 2 is second best, 3 is third best, 4th is fourth best, 5th is fifth best. Very clear. But how best they are when compared with other one? So when compared, 1 compared with 2, how much he is best? Is the same best or same gap of betterment is there between 2 and 3? The gap between 2 and 3 is not the same between 1 and 2. Similarly, the gap between 3 and 4 is not the same between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 or between 4 and 5. Right? So they are not equidistant. They are not equidistant. But when we try to say betterment is there, betterment is there. There is ordinal characteristic prevailing among themselves. There is ordinal characteristic prevailing among themselves. But the gap between one to other is not the same. Right? This is the characteristics of ordinal data. So I repeat here, so all the characteristics of nominal data prevail here in ordinal data also. Along with that, there is ordinal property also prevailing in the data. Only in such a case we call the data as ordinal data, right? In the example of male and female, you cannot apply this ordinal thing. But in the case of a satisfaction, something like excellent, good, poor, there you can apply ordinal counts, right? So this is the simple example of this. Then we'll go to the third type of variable, which is called interval data. In interval data, what is there is all the properties of nominal data, right? All the properties of ordinal data, all the properties are already included. Apart from that, the gap between point A to B, right, is same as the gap between B to C. So what this is? In case I try to say, last example we have taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranks. I'm not supposed to take this example, but still try to give this example, right? In the previous example, whatever I mentioned between 1 to 2, I have shown only small gap of 0.1%. But here, in case I have to show there is a gap here, I have to show whatever is the gap between 1 and 2 is the same gap between 2 and 3, the same gap between 3 to 4, same gap between 4 to 5. The interval of gap between these points are always same. Like suppose here I say 10%, here also 10, here also 10, here also 10. Likewise, right? Suppose if it is not 10, I say it is only 2 points. Then here also 2 points, 2 points, right? So there is equidistance between one point to other points, right? So such kind of data, we call it as interval data. I repeat. So if the data has all the properties of ordinal data and interval, right? And all the properties of ordinal data and nominal data, and the interval between values is expressed in terms of fixed unit of measure. Fixed unit of measure. Then the scale of measurement is interval scale. And here, let me tell you another important thing. There will be no absolute zero. There will be no absolute zero. There won't be any absolute zero, but there will be zero, which is called arbitrary zero. There will be zero, which is called arbitrary. Arbitrary means assumed zero will be there, but there will be no real zero. Real zero does not prevail, but there will be arbitrary zero, right? One best example will tell you in all this case, in the case of interval data, right? One best example which we discuss across the world is temperature. So we measure temperature in centigrades, we measure temperature in Fahrenheit. This centigrade or in Fahrenheit, whatever unit of measurement of temperature is, there suppose 10 degrees to 20 degrees, 20 degrees to 30 degrees. The gap between 10 to 20 degrees is 10 degrees centigrade. 20 to 30 is 10 degrees centigrade. 30 to 40 is 10 degrees centigrade. Right? Gap is same. Right? Right. Let me tell you. 10 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 13. I'm talking about same degrees. Right? Here 1 degree, here 1 degree, here 1 degree. Equidistant. Right? And there will be no absolute zero here. Right? What this no absolute zero is? There won't be any 0 degree centigrade. We will be using it. There is a meaning, there is a difference in it. We will be using the word 0 degree centigrade, but there is no absolute 0 degree centigrade. When I mean there is no absolute 0 degree centigrade, I mean there is no temperature. When in any place, suppose in Kashmir on a day, there are participants from Kashmir also in today's session. So on Kashmir, it is very common to say today temperature is 0 degree centigrade. 0 degree centigrade, is it that there is no temperature? There is temperature, but you have taken, you are making it as arbitrary zero. It is arbitrary zero. You are assuming it to be zero and you are trying to compare using that. But it is not no temperature. There is temperature there, which we call it as arbitrary. It is not absolute. Now, let me tell you here, this point of time, what is arbitrary, what is absolute. Now, let me take another example. I'm trying to measure height. Right? I'm trying to measure height. I am trying to measure weight. I'm trying to measure height. I'm trying to measure weight. So weight of an individual is 0 degrees. Sorry, 0 kgs. Not degrees, 0 kgs. When it is 0 kgs, what does that mean? There is no matter existing. So there is no weight. There is no matter existing. There is no mass. So because of it, weight is 0 degrees. So it is not arbitrary 0, but it is absolute 0. When it is 0, nothing is existing there. But when it comes to temperature, it is not the same. Temperature, when we say 0 degrees, it has some temperature there, which we are treating it as 0. Right? The same case when we say height, right? Height, we say it as 0. Right? There is no matter existing there. There is no item existing there. You are not measuring anything because of non-existing. You are saying it is as 0 degrees height. Along with that, suppose someone got marks 0. It is also absolute 0. It is not arbitrary 0. You are not assuming marks to be 0, but it is absolute 0. Right? So these are the few things which we need to understand before we go into the data analysis. Now, you need to understand that in interval scale, there is equal intervals of data. It is also like ordinal data, but the only thing is the gap between first point to second point and second point to third point is same in interval data, which is not prevailing in ordinal data. And also that there is an arbitrary 0 and there is no absolute 0 here. So that is what the point is. Now, at the same time, let me take an example here. When I'm trying to measure temperature in a room, how I can measure temperature a day? There are different ways of measuring it, right? So when you go to a respondent, you can ask it something like, I am comfortable, I am not comfortable. Because why I'm comfortable? The climate, the hotness of the day is making me comfortable, feeling relaxed. On a day I am not comfortable, it is sultry, right? Something about the climate because of which you are not comfortable. That way also you can take the response. When you are asking a questionnaire, in a questionnaire, the response can be something like this, right? Sometimes what happens, you can also ask this way. How way? Like it is cold, it is warm, it is hot, right? It is comfortable and uncomfortable. It becomes nominal data. It becomes nominal data. The moment I say it is cold, warm, and hot, it becomes ordinal data. It becomes ordinal data, right? So comfortable, uncomfortable is nominal data, right? And wherever your response is in terms of cold, warm, and hot, it becomes ordinal data. Why to ask like this? You can also ask in terms of degrees of temperature, right? Maybe in centigrade or Fahrenheit, right? Right. In a room where I am, maybe the temperature is about 20 degrees centigrade. Outside my room, the temperature is about 40 degrees centigrade. Now, my question is, can I say outside my room is twice hotter than the room I am in? Because it is 40 degrees centigrade, because I am in a room where it is 20 degrees centigrade, can I say outside the room it is twice hotter than inside? Can I say? You may think you can say that it is twice hotter, but it is not in reality. It is not in reality. 40 degrees centigrade temperature is not twice 20 degrees centigrade. It is not twice the 20 degrees centigrade. Why it is not twice? Because of absence of absolute zero. Because of absence of absolute zero, 40 degrees centigrade is not twice hotter than 20 degrees centigrade. In case if it is absolute zero is there, if absolute zero is there, then definitely it will be. Now an example for absolute zero, let me tell you. Someone is suppose someone is 4 feet. Right? For that matter, let me take someone is 6 feet. Someone is 3 feet. Can I say this is A, this is B? A is twice taller than B. A is twice taller than B. Is it right? This is right. A is twice taller than B. But where in case of this room temperature, there you cannot say the inside, the outside is twice the hotter than the inside. You cannot say because of absence of absolute zero. This is one important thing which you need to understand before you try to apply any statistical technique. So what kind of data is this? This is interval data. This is interval data. And in interval data, there is no absolute zero. Right. The last type of measurement. What we have seen till now, we have seen nominal data, we have seen ordinal data, we have seen we have given nominal data, we have given ordinal data, and we have seen interval data. After that, the most studied measurement is ratio scale of measurement. Ratio scale of measurement. Now, what's ratio scale of measurement? The data has all the properties of interval data. Data has all the properties of interval data, and the ratio of two values is meaningful. Then the scale of measurement is called ratio data. What is this ratio of two values is meaningful? Just now I was talking about temperature. I have said 40 degrees centigrade. I have said 20 degrees centigrade. Ratio of 40 degrees to 20 degrees. What it is? 2:1. Right? Wherever we see the ratio something like this, 2:1, definitely what we say, this is A, this is B. This is A, this is B. A is twice than B. This is a meaningful interpretation. If this meaningful interpretation is applicable, then we say the data as ratio data. When there is no meaningful interpretation out of the ratios, whatever we calculate, then we say it is not ratio data. Right? So what is happening here is in ratio data, all the properties of interval data is there, and also you can have the meaningful interpretation of the ratio of two values. Then the scale of measurement is ratio scale. Along with that, let me also tell you, there will be absolute zero here. There will be absolute zero in this kind of data. Right? The most common, most frequently used examples, what we use in our day-to-day life is height, weight, age, marks, right? When it comes to age, someone is 35, someone is 40, right? These are ages, right? These are not age groups. So these are ratio scales. If it is age group, it does not come here. It does not come here in the ratio scale measurement because it is not numerical data, right? So now this is ratio scale of measurement. Let us see an outline of all these four scales. So there is nominal scale, there is ordinal scale, there is interval scale, there is Aishwarya, why ratio is not meaningful in interval scale? Yes, once again I repeat the same example what I just quoted here. 40 degrees, 20 degrees. You said 40 by 20, it is 2:1. This is the ratio. When anywhere it is 2:1, what does it indicate? This is A, this is B, A is twice than B. Right? When it is A is twice than B, what does it mean? A is twice hotter than B. But 40 degrees centigrade is not twice hotter than B. Here, when it comes to centigrade, you are getting 2:1. Suppose I convert this 40 and 20 into Fahrenheit. I will not get same 40 and same 20, and I will not get same 2:1. I will get some other ratio. I will get some other ratio. That ratio will give some other interpretation. Let me tell you here, this 40 degrees centigrade is not twice hotter than 20 degrees centigrade. Why it is not twice hotter? It is only because of non-existing of absolute zero. I repeat once again here, 0 degrees centigrade. In 0 degrees centigrade also there is temperature. In 0 degrees centigrade also there is temperature. Right? So in such a case, you cannot, there is no absolute zero. Further discussion doesn't happen here because absolute zero is there, it will be different. When absolute zero is not there, it will be different. Right? When I am comparing the marks of the people, somebody got 40 marks, somebody got 20 marks. Right? There is a comparison here. There is a comparison here. Right? So he got double. This is A, this is B. A got double the marks of B. There is a comparison. Somebody is 20 years, somebody is 40 years. Right? Right? When we have done arithmetic in our childhood days, in our school days, we all studied. Right? So A is twice, this is A, this is B. A is twice the age of B. This is ratio, clear cut definition of a ratio. There is a ratio existing there, right? The ratios does not exist in interval data, right? So ratio is the top scale. The next is interval. The next is ordinal. The next is nominal, right? When I say top, not top in terms of this is the best scale, but my point of saying here is we can do all kind of statistical analysis on this ratio data. We can do all kind of statistical analysis on this data. You cannot do same kind of statistical analysis on, same kind of statistical analysis on interval data and the same level of statistical analysis on ordinal data and norm data, right? So what kind of tool, what kind of technique depends upon what kind of data it is. Now, before we go further and try to tabulate the data, let us now very quickly look into the aspects of frequency distribution, right? Because these are the fundamental things I would like to cover them before we go in look into the SPSS software. Because fundamentals of without understanding fundamentals of statistics, trying to do statistical analysis is not appropriate without knowing the alphabets, talking about grammar, learning spoken English doesn't signify anything. So for that reason, we need to always understand basics of the fundamentals of statistics. Right. Frequency distribution is the first thing which we need to understand here. The frequency distribution, what we do is we try to tabulate the data. We try to tabulate the data. So we got some data here, right? This is the data. We have certain variables A, B, C, A. These are some inputs, right? So this I need to tabulate. Now I am not saying what these A, B, C's are, what kind of data it is. I am not saying, but looking at the data, you can definitely say is an example for a categorical data or a nominal data. But keeping that aside, now looking to the table, right? What we can do is you can have a category and you can have the tally mark and you can have the frequency, right? How many times A has occurred? Count it. 6 times A has occurred, right? So first 5 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 1. So frequency, tally mark 6. And how many times B has occurred? 1, 2, 3. Frequency 3. How many times C has occurred? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? Total frequency, total tally mark, total frequency. Right? So fundamentally, when we have data, we'll try to do frequency distribution. We'll try to draw frequency distribution. Here we are doing it manually. In SPSS, system will be doing, but we will be able to understand what these are. System will do it, but we need to understand what kind of what is the table is. When it comes to categorical data, what we do is we just have seen frequency distribution table. Frequency distribution table we have seen. Then what next we will be able to do? We will be able to draw a pie chart or a bar chart. In categorical data, I'm not talking about any kind of statistical technique, but I'm trying to talk about only you can draw bar chart, you can draw a pie chart, right? So they will describe about the categorical table that we have calculated or we have tabulated using the frequency. And how does a pie chart look like? You all know pie chart looks like a circle, right? So what do we do? 6. A. What is 6? 6% out of 18. How much percentage 6 has? 3 has 3 by 18 into 4 has 4 by 18 into 100. Likewise, you will get percentages. Those percentages can be represented in the pie chart. This is A, this is B, this is C, this is D. How many are there? A, B, C, right. So this is a pie chart. Generally, what we say, whichever categorical variable is occupying more space, that is of more significant in this present study, right? So A is having more frequency. Definitely, A will have more percentage, and this is what A should be represented. Next is D. D will be having next because it is 5 frequency. Right? This is how you draw pie chart. Apart from chart, what we will also do, we can also draw a bar chart. How does a bar chart represent? A, B, C, D. Right? I am taking variables here. This is 5, this is 6, this is 4. What is other thing? 3. 3 is there. Though it is not to scale, right? So this is what A is. Next is D. D is about 5. Is my PPT visible now? Dear participants?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's visible, but there's a small pop-up screen.
Okay. Once again, it seems got disconnected. Let me reconnect it. Technology has its own advantages and disadvantages. Now, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Like this is what a Pareto chart look like, right? So this is how we do analysis in case of categorical. Now look in terms of a descriptives. When we say we are doing descriptive analysis, when we say we are doing inferential statistics, what basically we try to is we try to describe the data. How do we describe the data? We try to describe the data using measures of central tendency. Using measures of central tendency. Now, in measures of central tendency, the most frequently used calculation statistics are mode, median, mean, standard deviation. Now, out of it, the mode, the first one, right? What is a mode? What is a mode is? What is the mode? What is the mode is? Excuse me. Seems there is some disturbance. Mohini Garu. Kindly mute yourself. Yeah. Right. So coming to the descriptives, the first one mode. The mode of a categorical variable is most common category. The category with the highest frequency. In the example, what we have seen just now, A is having the highest frequency, and A is said to be the mode of the data set. Mode A is said to be the mode of the data set, right? The longest bar in a bar chart is the mode. The longest bar, the bar chart is the mode. And when it comes to pie chart, we say is the widest slice or the biggest slice, right? So the biggest slice of the pie chart is the mode. So even before calculating this also, you can say which one is more. So whose frequency is more? The frequency table for whichever variable, for whichever category the frequency is large, that value is called mode. And in some cases, there will be bimodal or multimodal. If you take this particular example, right? So both category A and C has the same frequency. And this is an example for bimodal. Only A and C are there. Suppose A, B, C also have the same frequencies and highest frequencies, then it is called multimodal data. Multimodal data. After mode, the next important statics is the median. Median is a technique which we can apply only on ordinal data. Why I'm saying only ordinal data? We can do it on ordinal data, we can do it on ratio data, and we can do on interval data. But thing is, you cannot calculate median on category data or nominal data. In nominal data, you cannot apply median. In nominal data, what you can do is you can draw pie chart, you can draw bar chart, and you can do frequency distribution, then do mode calculation. Only these things you can do on categorical data, especially when it is nominal data. When it is nominal data. But when it is ordinal data, when something is better than other, then you can have a median. You can have median calculation. Suppose these are the grades obtained by 15 students in a class. These are the grades obtained by 15 students in a class. What is A? A is a grade. What is B? B is a grade. What is C? C is a grade. Can we have comparison between these grades? So A is a better grade, B is the next best grade, C is the next best, and D is the last. So there is a comparison between the grades, and A is the first one, B is the next one, C is the next one, D is the last one. So in this comparison of grades, can we arrange them in a sequence? We can arrange them in a sequence. So first what we have to do is, we have to write the first best one, followed by the next best one, followed by the next best one, then the last best one, right? So this is the sequence in which you have arranged, right? In order to calculate the median, so what we have to do is, we have to sort the values supplied to you, then you have to arrange them, then you have to go to the middle point of the data, then arrive at the, what is the middle point here? Middle point is B. Then you arrive at the median. The median is the midpoint data or the middle observation of the sorted values. When it comes to ordinal data, you will be arranging them in a sequence. After arranging them in a sequence, you will go to the middle observation, and you will be calling this middle observation value as the median of the data. So in order to sort the data, what is required? You need ordinal characteristic among the data. Only when ordinal characteristic among the data is prevailing, then only you can apply median. Otherwise, you cannot apply median. After arranging them in a sequence, then you go to the middle observation, then you will choose it, then you call it as median of the data. Right. Apart from this categorical data, when you will go to the numerical data, so you will have discrete data, and then there will be continuous data. I have just kept interval data and another one, ratio data, because these kind of data doesn't prevail in categorical data. I have kept them aside. Then I am going to the numerical data, and in numerical data, we will be applying all the four. What are the four? We will try to apply nominal data, we will try to apply ordinal data, and then we will try to do interval data analysis, then ratio data analysis also. But before that, the numerical data can be two-way. It can be discrete or it can be continuous. In any of the cases, when it comes to numerical data, so these are the various measures of descriptive analysis. You can do central tendency, you can do kurtosis, you can do variation, you can also do shape. So measures of central tendency: mean, median, mode, geometric mean, and harmonic mean. So these are the kinds of means which you can calculate, and you can do kurtosis and skewness calculated on the data. And for the understanding of variation, you can go for range, coefficient of variation, variance, standard deviation, and mean deviation. These kind of calculations can be done on the numerical data for better describing the data. Now, coming to this central tendency, common commonly used measures of central tendency, what we have is, we have different levels of measurement, but these different levels of measurement will vary from the scales. So if it is nominal data, if it is ordinal data, if it is interval data, we will be using only few measures of central tendency. But if it is ratio data, we will be using all the scales of measurement. Let us see very quickly on discrete data. When it comes to discrete, as I said, numerical data is of two types. There is discrete data and there is continuous data. When it is discrete data, how the data will be? This is an example for discrete data. So these are the data sets, reports of number of people in an household. So I have gone to 15 houses and I have collected how many people are living in house. In a house, there are 2 people. In a house, there are 1 person. In a house, there are 3 people. In a house, there are 4 people. In a house, there are 5 people, something so and so forth. These are the variables. So when these are discrete data, how do you do tally marking? So to construct the frequency distribution, you need to identify how many values are available. I have value 1, I have value 2, I have value 3, I have value 4, and I have value 5. How many ones are available? 1, 2. There are 2 ones. How many 2s are available? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 2s. How many 3s are available? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 3s are available. How many 4s are available? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many 5s are available? 1, right. So these are the frequencies. Now what we do is, we have to do tally marking, then you have to identify frequencies, then you have to go for relative frequency. Frequency by what is relative frequency? If this is, how many is there? 1 is how much? There are 2 1s, 2 3s, 3 5s, 4 4s. It comes to frequency. This is how much? This is 15. What is relative frequency? Is 4 by 15 into 100. Is 1 by 15 into 100. So these are relative frequencies. When we add all these things, what you will get? So this is the frequency distribution for discrete variables. But when it comes to continuous data, what will be there is, there will be upper class limit, there will be upper class limit, there will be lower class limit, and there will be class width, there will be class mark. These values, these things also we need to understand. So these are the marks obtained by students. This kind of data, we call it as continuous data. So what, because the volume of data is large, what we are trying to do is, we are grouping the data and we are putting them in a class, right? So we are classifying the total data because of its continuous nature. We are putting them into class. So 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90. So this is how we are classified. And 68, where does it come? It comes here. I will be putting one mark. What is next value? 79. Where does it come? It will come into 70 to 80 class. 38. Where does it come? It comes into the first class, 30 to 40. 68. It comes in second class. Hope you're all following me. I am hurrying because of time, because they already crossed 4 p.m. I'm a little bit in hurry, trying to complete the entire concept today itself. This is how we need to do tally marking. Then when we complete it, this is how we'll get the frequency distribution. So this is 3, this is 6, this is 18, this is 17, this is 4, this 100 will give you 6% or the 0.06. So these are the relative frequencies. When we add all these things, this 100% or it is 1. So this is how we have to do in case of continuous data. So I repeat here, numerical data extremely sorry. Right. Uh, suppose we have ranks of students. Like I have 10 students. So the ranks obtained by these 10 students are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. These are the ranks obtained by the students. Right. So what we will be able to do? What kind of data is this? This is not ratio data. What kind of data is this? This is ordinal data. In this ordinal data, if we try to do mean calculation, what happens? What happens? So mean calculation is something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 divided by 10 value. Will it be of any use? Can we draw any significant information out of it? It will be of no use. We cannot draw any kind of significant information. I will not be able to understand what is the performance of the students based upon the mean of the ranks. Rather, if I do mean of the marks obtained by the students, suppose the marks obtained by the students are 50, 51, 61, 71, 91, 98, something like this. So in such a case, when I try to do a mean calculation, then I will be able to draw some meaningful information. Suppose the mean is about 75. The mean is about 75, or the mean is about 35. What does this mean? 35 is, mean 75 is average marks obtained by the entire students of the class. So when it is 75, the students are better performing. When it is 35, the students are performing less than the average. If I say, you can even say they are not even mediocre, they are less than the mediocre. That's what you can infer out of this marks. But if you are trying to do the same kind of calculation When we try to do same kind of calculation on the ranks, it cannot draw any kind of meaningful information. But when we try to do the same kind of calculation on the marks obtained by the students, we can draw meaningful information. So what I am trying to tell you is, here, though both of the variables are numbers, both of the variables are numbers, but the kind of statistical technique that you can apply on the number varies from one kind of data to other kind of data. That is the reason why I am very categorically focusing on this particular aspect of understanding data. Understanding data. So as you all know, this is how a mean calculation is done. This is the formula for calculating sample mean. When it's a group data, group data has a different calculation. So group data, this is how you try to calculate uh, a mean in a group data. When it comes to continuous data, this is how we need to calculate. I will be sharing these slides for your better understanding of how to calculate mean values. Similarly, when it comes to mean, a mean is the center point, right? So when we arrange all these values, then we go to the middle point, then middle point value is the median, right? So, you know, like a n plus 1 by 2, n plus 1 by 2 will tell you what is the median. When n is odd, but when n is even, n by 2 and n by 2 plus 1 are the two variables, and do the average of that, then you will get the median. That is what the median is. So what is mode? Mode is most frequently occurring value. Most frequently occurring value in the total data set. So in some cases, there will not be any mode. In this case, what is the mode? 7 has occurred twice. So 7 is mode. In this case, what is the mode? This 3 is the
Hello. Hello. Dear participants, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, you're audible.
Oh, one second.
Dear participant, I'm extremely sorry for the failure in the technical. And let me stop it for the day at this point. And I would like to take questions from the participants. In case you have any questions, you can ask me. We'll continue it further tomorrow. Is it fine, participants?
dear participants. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, there is frequent failure of the technology here. I request you all to join tomorrow and we shall continue this session. Anyway, we will be starting spaces tomorrow. In case you have any questions, you can ask me now. Participants, do you have any question? No.
Sir, do we need to download SPSS by tomorrow?
Yes, please. There will be students version available on SPSS website. I will be sharing the link on the WhatsApp group. Kindly download
Okay,
it,
sir. Thank
install
you.
it. Anything else, ma'am?
Sir, is there a WhatsApp link? My name is not added on the WhatsApp. I'm only on the mail.
Okay, kindly send an email to me. I will share the link.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, we will be sharing the PPTs of all the sessions. We'll also share the video link, recorded links. Sorry.
Hello. Am I audible, madam? Lalita Praveen.
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Ramesh Kumar, sir. We are facing some technical problem. Anything you want to add, ma'am? Anyone of you? Any questions? Monica. Any questions,
No, ma'am.
ma'am?
No, ma'am. I don't have any question now.
Okay. So then we'll call off today. On behalf of Department of Business Management and University College of Commerce and Engineering, full session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, sir, for enlightening us on the fundamentals of statistics. And tomorrow we are going to start the session at 10:30. Morning we are having a session on Dr. Ramesh Kumar, sir, for introduction to SPSS. And in the second session, we will also having again the session of Dr. Ramesh Kumar, sir, on basic operations with SPSS. Then in the afternoon session, we are having session on parametric test by Sri G. N. Satish Kumar, sir. With this, we are calling for the day and we'll meet again tomorrow at 10:30. Thank you so much all. Thank you.